into our show that is called Real Shame. It's a show where we watch movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spots. Basically movies we should have seen, but we're fixing that for you today. This week, oh wait, I forgot to introduce who we are. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
This week we're watching some movies that I haven't seen and probably should have seen. But you know that, well, you don't know who it is, but you know what movie we're talking about because you can read the title. And the movie we're talking about this week is...
Professional football player Flash Gordon, through a series of extraordinary events, lands on the planet Mongo, along with a beautiful travel agent and a crazy scientist. Together, the three of them must do battle against the evil Ming the Merciless. But Ming didn't he didn't realize he was dealing with Flash Gordon.
Who are you?
Flash Gordon, quarterback, New York Jets.
Dale Arden, Your Highness. Live and let live. That's my motto.
My name is Hans Zarkov. I'm a scientist. I kidnapped them here in an effort to save our planet Earth.
So Flash Gordon is directed by Mike Hodges. Prior to this, he had done films like Get Carter, the original Get Carter, that is, with Michael Caine, Pulp with Michael Caine, and then he would go on to do movies like Croupier. I call that movie out. It's got Clive Owen. I like that movie. It's a late 90s movie. Written by Lorenzo Semple Jr., not Simple, not S-I-M-P-L-E, but S-E-M-P-L-E, Semple Jr. He had written movies like Papillon, The Parallax View with Warren Beatty, King Kong, 1976, and the Sean Connery unofficial Bond movie, Never Say Never Again. And, of course, it has music score by Queen, Flash Gordon. It's based on the comic strip character created by Alex Raymond way back in the 20s, 30s. I didn't write down the time period. I know they had Flash Gordon serials in the 1930s. So apparently Federico Fellini had a little bit of interest in doing a Flash Gordon movie, but never really got started on it. George Lucas apparently at one time wanted to do Flash Gordon movie, but couldn't get the rights to do it. And so he went off and did his own Star Wars movie, which...
What? I've never heard of that
right,
before.
What is that?
What is this Star Wars?
This is one of those cases where, you know, it was a blessing in disguise for sure. I think, that is if you're a Star Wars fan. If you're not, then...
Maybe like Jurassic Dune kind of thing.
Yeah, and then Nicholas Roeg, who directed, of course, Don't Look Now, which I absolutely love. He also directed Walkabout, which I'm a big fan of as well. He apparently did a little bit of production work on it, worked on it for a little while, but just never got around to actually directing it. So it ended up directed by Mike Hodges, produced by Dino de Laurentiis. He was a big-time Italian producer who had produced a lot of films up to this point and would continue to produce a lot of films up until, 2010, something like that. Or, he had a very long career, but he produced other movies by Fellini like La Strada, Nights of Cabiria, other comic book movies like Barbarella with Jane Fonda from 1968. And he also worked on, along with Lorenzo Semple Jr., the King Kong 1976 version. Flash Gordon stars Sam Jones as Flash Gordon, and Sam Jones, I looked at his filmography. He has 2 credits before Flash Gordon, but I'm pretty sure this was his lead role, his first lead role. He was in the movie 10 with Bo Derek and Dudley Moore, but I think that was just a small role. I haven't seen that in a long time, and I don't remember. And he did a TV movie before Flash Gordon, but I think this is his official kind of debut.
TV movie after Flash Gordon.
He did do a TV movie after Flash Gordon, which we might talk about in a couple of days. So part of his performance is actually dubbed because there was a little bit of falling out between him and Dino de Laurentiis, and he did not return. During a break in filming, he did not return to come back, so they had to dub his voice. It also, or at least in part of it, not all of it. Melody Anderson stars as Dale Arden. Melody Anderson would go on to be in the cult horror movie Dead and Buried the year after this. The TV show Manimal, which ran for like a season. I remember it from being a kid. And she worked with Louis Gossett Jr. and Chuck Norris in the movie Firewalker.
Oh, cool.
The cult movie Firewalker from the mid-'80s. It also stars Topol. I've heard it said both ways. He stars as Dr. Hans Zarkov. He is probably best known for playing Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof. A year after this, he would be in the James Bond movie For Your Eyes Only. And speaking of James Bond, this movie has Timothy Dalton, who took over the role of James Bond from Roger Moore. He does a very Errol Flynn-esque turn as Prince Baron. Brian Blessed, who is playing to the back row, apparently. He enunciates like his life depended on it. He plays Prince Voltan, the Hawkman.
He's awesome.
Peter Wingard plays Clytus. Because this movie was produced by Dino de Laurentiis, he brought along a couple of famous Italian actresses. Ornella Muti plays Princess Aura, and Mariangela Malato plays General Kala. Max von Sydow, yes, that Max von Sydow, plays Ming the Merciless. And finally, rounding out the cast, there's a lot of people that have very small roles or just kind of are extras in the movie. They don't even necessarily have lines, but you've got Kenny Baker's in this movie, R2-D2 himself. Robbie Coltrane is in a blink, and you'll miss him bit extra part at the very beginning of the film. That Hagrid, if you don't know who that is. William Hootkins, who is in both Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark, plays Dr. Zarkov's assistant who runs away. He does not want to go to the planet Mongo. And Deep Roy is also in this film. He's in like Neverending Story. He's in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So Lorenzo Semple Jr., I mentioned some of the screenplays that he worked on, but he worked on the 1960s Batman TV series. So he
Adam
also
West
had some,
era, right?
Adam West, Burt Ward era. So he had some experience working on some comic stuff. But anyway, before we go any further, this is a movie that you've never seen, surprisingly.
I've heard the song.
You've heard the soundtrack before. Had you seen like bits and pieces of it? Maybe. Have you seen Ted or Ted 2?
So I have seen both of them.
Okay.
But I honestly didn't remember the Flash Gordon scenes.
Okay.
In them.
Well, they probably didn't have much of an impact on you because you hadn't seen the original movie.
I mean, I think the context was there, right? It's like, okay, this guy from the childhood and like that stuff. Although I did rewatch those scenes post seeing Flash Gordon, and they made a lot more sense. But
right.
I think I got the general idea and stuff like that from I got the context from the movie, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I the thing that stands out is the box art, right? And I think that was done. Was that done by now his name's leaving me. If Alex Ross, I feel like it looks like Alex Ross.
I think maybe that sounds right.
Yeah,
sounds right.
The poster art's amazing looking.
Yeah,
like it looks so cool.
It does.
But I did not. I'm going into this complete blind. I always associate this movie kind of with Buckaroo Banzai, and I don't know if that's a apt comparison or not. But I always kind of loop them together in my head, and both movies that I haven't seen until this week.
Yeah,
stuff like that. So I think didn't know a whole lot going into it.
Okay.
So where am I?
Yeah. Sorry, I zoned out there for a second. Yes. What did you think about finally having seen Flash Gordon?
This movie is so crazy. It's hard to kind of define for me. There's so much kind of wrapped up in it. I'll say ultimately I enjoyed watching the movie. The movie is crazy and it's bizarre, and that's the reason why I like it. It's so out there and so colorful and everything.
Yeah.
And it's a thing of its own. It's hard to kind of contextualize it in the view of seeing movies. So I ultimately kind of liked it. I was wondering while I was watching it, and again, this is someone who didn't grow up with it, so I don't have like that nostalgia tied to it. Yeah. But I'm wondering if the movie would be as like popular if Queen didn't do the soundtrack.
I do not think it would be,
because I feel like that soundtrack is just adds a level of craziness and adds like this kind of thud and this like momentum to the whole movie that is, and it's so doesn't fit with the movie but yet does fit with the movie kind of stuff. Okay. It's so out there, and that Flash theme or whatever is so catchy.
Yeah.
Like you can like it's since I've watched the movie, it's kind of been playing in the background of my head like ever since it just is. It's like every time it's almost like the Jeopardy theme. Like anytime there's like a spare moment, all of a sudden it's like
You may want to have that checked out.
Yeah, I probably should.
See a doctor.
It's my weird version of tinnitus.
Yeah, right. That would be a very, very weird version of tinnitus. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it's just hard to kind of grapple with this movie being so old and seeing it so late in life. But ultimately, like all the campiness and all the bizarreness that is this movie, I really liked. There are some like slow parts and things I would do differently, but I mean, it's hard to kind of reconcile that with this movie and stuff like that. Like I just kind of wish It's felt like when he was assembling the forces, I expected something grander in scheme and stuff like that. But we had like the Hawkeye battle on like the ship and stuff, and that was so cool. But so I don't know why I was expecting something like much larger, like almost like Avengers Endgame kind of level of spectacle. But that's too much to ask for a movie of this size.
They don't have the CGI or the
exactly.
budget. Yeah.
But I loved like the Hawkman stuff is awesome. I love all them like floating around the background and all those shots. I like, when they first bring Flash Gordon and his crew there, and like you have all these different kinds of people, like species, I guess, and they're all dressed super differently, and like the costumes is just crazy. It's just like they threw everything at it. It's crazy. And then we have to talk. I feel like I'm talking too long, so I'm gonna say this one thing, but we can circle back to it. Is like the Lizardmen is just a bizarre choice because their eyes are in their mouth, and it's like, is this like, are the Lizardmen like?
They really seafood.
Yeah, they're seafood.
Yeah.
Are those like people like in the context of the movie? Are they people wearing costumes, or are they actually like lizard creatures that have eyes in their mouth? And like, how does that work? Like that's so bizarre. But
yeah.
Ultimately, it's an insane movie. I will say Kirby loved this movie. It's probably going to be one of those not guilty pleasures, but one of those things you just kind of put on when you want to have something that's bizarre and just watch and just kind of enjoy, right? So, yeah, I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I finally watched it. It is so, like, of its own that it's just really hard to contextualize for me, I guess. So, you've obviously seen Flash Gordon before. I'm sure you've seen it more than...
I've seen it several times. Yeah. So obviously, as we mentioned before, we do not discuss these movies before we film this. So coming into this, we never know how each other feels about this movies. But I don't have that restriction with Kirby, so I can always talk to her about the movies. And she was so excited about this movie and really gushed over it. She's like, wish that she had seen it a long time ago because now she feels like she's doing catch up or whatever. So that's always fun to hear, right? When somebody really enjoys something, and it's like now it's like they want it to become a staple.
Yeah.
I want to watch this all the time, or whatever. This
well,
is like
it was like us with The Blob.
The Blob, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, where has this been all of our life? Like, why have we been missing out? Now we're making up for lost time.
Now you got to watch it every Halloween at least. So, no, but as I was telling her, and obviously now I'm telling you and our viewing public, all three of you, so I feel like this is one of those movies that we had on tape, like maybe we had recorded it off of TV or something like that as a kid. I don't think we bought it or anything, but I think we had it on tape, kind of like we had Star Wars on tape and Jaws and some other movies like that. So I feel like this was kind of just playing in the background a lot whenever I was a kid. But I've seen it all the way through a few times. I feel like I watched it sometime within the last 10 years or something like that. But so I've seen it quite a few times all the way through, I feel like, and I've seen bits and pieces of it numerous times. And leading into all this, you would think that I'm a big fan of this movie, but get out your pitchforks because I'm not really a fan of this movie. Yeah,
did you like it before when you watched it so much as a kid?
I think I liked it as a kid, but as a kid I liked everything. I liked the fact that I was just watching a movie because it was better than doing chores or better than doing homework or something like that. It was escapism.
It's like you can either play around on the piano,
you can clean your room,
or
you can sit here and be quiet and watch Flash Gordon or whatever. Not that my parents were that stern.
It's a real Sophie's choice you presented there.
I know. No, but seriously, I mean, it was like as a kid, I loved everything pretty much. I don't remember ever seeing a movie when I was a kid and being like, I hate that or whatever, because that's how I talk when I was a kid. I hate that. But I don't hate this movie at all, and I get the appeal, and I get like why Kirby likes it so much, or why people really dig this movie. It just doesn't really come together for me. I can appreciate what they tried to do, and I do think that the Queen soundtrack takes it to another level, and that is one of the things that I really like about the movie. I like the Queen soundtrack, but the things that I don't like about the movie, I think my biggest problem with the movie is, and I know I'm going to get disagreements here maybe from commenters or whatever, and that's fine. I love that sort of thing, but I feel like it is supposed to be campy, and they do approach it kind of with that mindset, but to me, they don't go all into that. I feel like it kind of straddles a line between being campy and being serious.
Yeah.
And I don't know that all the actors are sure which side that they're on. I think Timothy Dalton is more on the serious side. And I think that, you know, some of the other and Sam Jones is just flat out pretty bad. Like, he's just not really that good of an actor. I'm sorry, but he's not. You know, I mean, this was, again, one of his earliest roles, and it shows. And as we mentioned, he's dubbed, right? I mean, again, not all the movie, but
I didn't notice the dubbing, but maybe
I do, but maybe that's just because I've seen it before. But I feel like, and I was telling Kirby this, I feel like the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, it feels like almost everybody is dubbed. And I know that happened a lot with like Italian cinema, you know, like spaghetti westerns and stuff. They kind of just did ADR, they did dubbing for the entire movie kind of after the fact. I know that they did not do that in this case, but it feels like a lot of it is dubbed. Yeah, it just feels artificial. It feels very weird. Like Sam Jones is saying some lines and it's just not his voice.
When they're first in like that airplane, the private plane, stuff like that. Talking.
Yeah, that early part of the movie, it feels like a lot of that is dubbed, if not all of it, and not just Sam Jones. But I could be wrong. But again, I mean, that's, you know, big deal. But for me, the biggest problem is the movie just never really comes together for me. I like bits and pieces of it. I like the score a lot. I can appreciate the colors and the production design, and I wanted to mention the production designer was Danilo Donati, and he had worked with Fellini. And I think if you've ever seen a Fellini film, you get it. I mean, because this looks like a Fellini film, right? I mean, it's very, very colorful. You've got reds and blues and greens, and I do like the way that they do the sky. The sky is always kind of cloudy, and
like this,
you know, it looks like cloudy
cotton
water
candy almost.
Yeah, like a cotton candy sky. And again, I can appreciate what they do. I think that I probably would have a blast with this movie if I went and saw it at the Alamo Drafthouse for like a quote-a-thon or like a midnight movie kind of thing. I feel like it'd be a lot more fun. But just watching it at home in 4K, no less. I mean, the version that we watched is the new 4K version that's out these days, put out by I think Arrow Video. It looks great, but I'm just not a big fan of this movie. Again, I like Ming, I like Max von Sydow. I think that he's kind of hamming it up in the right way as Ming the Merciless, and I do think it's cool when an actor of his caliber is not above doing a role like this. But the movie is just kind of, it's okay to me, but I'm not really a big fan of it, sadly. And that almost pains me to say, because I know it's a beloved, it wasn't necessarily as well received, I don't think, when it came out. It made money. I don't know how critically well received it is. I don't think it was that critically well received, but now it's really, really gained a cult following on home video, DVD and Blu-ray and all that stuff. So don't hate me, but I just think the movie's okay, but I'm not really a big fan of it. And honestly, I may never watch it again.
Oh, interesting.
I mean,
for me, it's like
unless I go to the Alamo Drafthouse.
It's in the bucket like Ricky O kind of stuff, and maybe because I was with Kirby and Kirby was enjoying it so much, that kind of gave me that Alamo Drafthouse kind of vibe. Or like when we first watched Ricky O for the first, well, it was our first time. I don't know if it was your first time.
It's my second time,
watching that, or you know, the Mighty Peking Man, like those kind of crowd pleasing, like, are we really watching what we're watching kind of movies? So I can kind of see that, but for me, it's not. I think this movie won't be, and I like this movie, but it won't be something I'm going to watch from beginning to end ever again. It's going to be like, oh, let's watch that scene where they battle on the disc, or oh, let's see, like, you know, Hawkman invading the ship and stuff like that. Like, you know, kind of just picking and choosing stuff out of it to watch and to kind of remember fondly kind of stuff would probably be it. But that's kind of,
I mean, I think the budget for this was, I don't know, 20 million, something like that, which is a lot of money. I mean, period. But adjusted for inflation, it's a lot of money, you know. But I think that, again, I think the production design is fine, and the colors and all of that kind of stuff. But to me, it's almost kind of gaudy and cheap looking. Like I think that some of it looks really bad, and maybe that's the 4K. Maybe I'm just noticing kind of the rubbery.
You need to watch
kind
it
of
like
effects.
back on VHS again.
Yeah, so that some of that stuff doesn't stand out, but it doesn't look that lavish to me. It looks kind of cheap, and I feel I can feel the hatred of people that are watching this that really love this movie. But again, I don't hate this movie, and just like you said, I don't begrudge anybody that really gets into this movie. And I do feel like, I said I would never watch it again, but I would watch it like at the draft house or something like that with a group of people, because I think that would make it more fun. But just me by myself watching this movie, I don't know if that's ever going to happen again.
Did you like
unless I do another show like this down the road.
Yeah. I was thinking of, like, we watched Battle Beyond the Stars with Magnificent Seven, and I think that's kind of the same ilk. Do you remember if you like Battle Beyond the Stars more or less in this movie, or do you know how this sits with that?
I don't know. I don't even remember how I really felt all that much about Battle Beyond the Stars.
I'm putting you on the spot. I just was curious.
I feel like this movie is better than Battle Beyond the Stars, if I recall correctly. I felt like I had some problems with Battle Beyond the Stars. I think I appreciate the nod to the Magnificent Seven and that whole kind of updating it to outer space, but I don't remember where I fell with that film.
I mean, I just was curious, just because to me, like, again, this kind of shoes into like that kind of same mold and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I totally get it. I get where you're coming from, and maybe it's you need to see it in a raucous room like I watched it, and you'll get energized by it.
I think so. So this movie, and I never noticed this when I was a kid, but I always thought, like, I didn't really read the goofs or whatever on the IMDb trivia, but I've always thought it was funny because somebody pointed out a long time ago that at the beginning of the film, Ming the Merciless, it starts with Ming the Merciless saying, Clytus, I'm bored, and what playthings do you have for me today? And he's like, we've got a little planet called Earth, or whatever. He's like, Earth, never heard of it. But then he's got those little buttons, right? So he can put like hot hail and stuff, and one of them is earthquake. So it's like, you didn't know what Earth is, but you got a button called Earthquake. I always thought that was pretty hilarious.
I
always
hot
chuckle
hail.
at that. I like hot hail too, because what is hot hail exactly?
It looks like it's like volcanic rock coming from the sky.
And I was disappointed that it is volcanic rock. Yeah, I was disappointed that when they've got Princess Aura detained and they're like, bring out the boar worms, she's like, no, not the boar worms, and then you never see the boar worms. I was like, that's a scene we need to see in the movie. They gypped us on the boar worms.
That was going to be in the sequel with their, they signed to a multi-picture deal.
Yeah.
Flash Gordon 2, boar worms.
That would have been awesome. So as we mentioned, Sam Jones had a falling out with Dino de Laurentiis. They basically they had a break in filming, and they were filming in England, and he went back to the States and just never returned. So they had to, shoot like with a body double and stuff. But I don't think it really shows. It seems like he completed the bulk of what he needed to complete.
I mean, nothing really stood out to me in watching it.
I'll say this. I don't know that I ever knew that production history until this most recent time that I watched it. And I have never noticed that as a kid. I never noticed like, hey, of course I probably wouldn't notice that as a kid, but yeah, I don't think it's noticeable at all. Whereas like a movie like Poltergeist 3, the little girl that played Carol Ann sadly passed away, and so they use a body double for her a lot in that movie, and it definitely shows. Because most of the movie you just see her back, because it's not her.
See her back,
right? So I don't feel like it's that way in this movie. But yeah, they wanted. I think there were some plans to do a sequel, but Sam Jones wasn't in it, and it just never really materialized. But I mean, I think obviously Flash Gordon has been around for many years. I think that it's ripe for a new reboot, right? I mean, why not?
I mean, it's got. There's got to be one. Someone's got to be talking about it.
Yeah, there's probably one in some kind of pre-production hell or something like that. So this was also a pinball machine. There was a Flash Gordon pinball machine. And if you watch the documentary Life After Flash, there is a guy that has one of the Flash Gordon pinball machines behind him.
It's Alex Ross.
And it was also an Atari 2600 video game. And if you ever played the arcade game Vanguard or the Atari game Vanguard, they use Volton's theme. Whenever you hit like a power-up and the game kind of speeds up, they play the Volton's theme.
Oh, cool.
Which is that... Yeah, sorry for my singing, but that's Volton's theme. They use that in the arcade game and the Atari game Vanguard. So this movie is 83% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, 69% audience score. Roger Ebert gave it thumbs up. He had fun with it. Siskel said it was not as fun as I had hoped. Thumbs down. I feel like Siskel in this case, just not as fun for me. So he gave it thumbs down. Leonard Maltin gives it 3 stars.
Dang.
Yeah. Leonard likes old Flash Gordon.
He does. He likes Sam Jones.
He does.
People want to say Sam Neill, different actor.
Yeah.
Different genre.
Different and better actor than Sam Jones.
All right. Well, that was Flash Gordon. Leave your hatred in the
Hatred
comments
for
down
me
below.
down
Hey,
below.
I as many times as I've been on the opposite side of people's point of view on things, it's fun. Everyone's nice. All right. On these
Yeah.
Monday episodes, we always like to talk about what we've been watching. So I'm gonna toss it over to you. What have you seen this week? Anything good?
It's all kind of Flash Gordon related, and
All
I think
right.
we've mentioned everything that I have watched. I watched the Life After Flash documentary,
I
which
watched
I
that as well.
literally just mentioned a couple of minutes ago when we talked about Alex Ross as the pinball machine. But yeah, Life After Flash. I think the title is a misnomer because I feel like with a title like that, they would follow Sam Neill the whole movie. I feel like they kind
It's
of
not
talked
Sam
to
Neill,
him.
Sam Jones.
Yeah, no, I said
I
Sam
put that in
Neill.
your-
Dadgummit.
I put that in your head.
You planted that. The power of suggestion. What is this? Inception?
Inception.
Yeah. So yeah, Sam Jones. Sam Jones. They talked to him at the beginning of the movie. He's like at some Comic-Con or something and doing this, that, and the other thing. But I feel like they abandoned him for large stretches of the movie.
Then they come back around.
And then
the
they
end.
come back around to him. So I don't know that the movie needed to be called Life, or the documentary needed to be called Life After Flash. But either way, I enjoyed it because it gives a good peek. They have a lot of interviews with people like Brian Blessed,
Yeah.
with Peter Wingard. He's passed away now, but he was still alive at the time, obviously. They don't get to interview Timothy Dalton, unfortunately.
Or
But
Max von Sydow.
they interview Topol, no Max von Sydow. They interview Melody Anderson, who has retired from acting. She basically retired in the 90s. So it's nice that, she was able to do it. Of course, she does Comic Cons and stuff as well. But obviously Sam Jones or Deep Roy they talk to a lot of these people. So you get a good sense of what went on during the movie. They talk to a lot of the fanboys, and they talk to Alex Ross, who loves this movie. I think it's his favorite movie. And guys that have assembled collections of memorabilia from the Flash Gordon movies, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
I was like, that's awesome. So even though I'm not a huge fan of Flash Gordon, I found this documentary to be pretty cool, even if I think the title is a little misleading because it's not necessarily all about Sam Jones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. I liked it.
I thought I like you. I also found it informative. I found the last 30 minutes of it to be kind of long in the tooth, and they kept on reiterating things, and I was like, all right, let's get past it. And they were trying to contextualize like where Sam Jones is now, and obviously he had some rough patches in his career, and seems like he's in a better place now. But I feel like we really didn't need to spend that much time with it. My favorite thing, in addition to all the stuff you said, was the couple guys that are at the conventions that are like, and you can see them in one frame, and they're like a background actor. Like they had the one guy where where you stick your hand in
the young kid who gets bit by the thing.
He's like not the guy that's in focus, but he's the guy right behind him.
Yeah.
He's like signing those photos. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he could do that, he's so happy with that. So that made me really happy. But yeah, I think watching Life After Flash is a good contextualizes the movie and stuff like that. Even though I do feel like it probably could have been a little bit shorter and a little bit timed up for it.
Fair enough. I also watched Ted and Ted 2.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well, I've seen Ted before. I'd never seen Ted 2. So this was a rewatch of Ted, and obviously the first.
I was going to ask
Ted
you if
2
you've seen those clips of after the show and stuff like that.
I've seen the entire movie. I think Ted is fine. I think it's an okay movie. Again, I mean, I don't dislike Seth MacFarlane. I remember really liking Family Guy when it first came out. I think it's probably gone on too long. A la The Simpsons and a lot of these other kind of animated shows that just never end. But again, I think that a lot of his stuff is very similar, and again, Ted sounds a lot like Peter Griffin and all this kind of stuff. Same kind of humor
and sensibilities for sure across all of his stuff.
Yeah, but I think Ted is fun enough. I think the Giovanni Ribisi character is pretty hilarious, especially the little dance sequence that he does to I Think We're Alone Now with sung by Tiffany. I think that's pretty funny, and the Flash Gordon stuff I think is funny.
Yes, and
that Sam Jones is like, hey, let's do some shots and everything, whatever. Ted 2 is just basically more of the same, and I think it's even longer. At least the version I watched, I think, was the unrated version, over 2 hours, and comedies don't need to be 2 hours. So Ted 2 was just, I could have done without it. But
I remember kind of liking Ted, being warm on it, not loving it.
Yeah.
I remember Ted 2 not liking it at all, and rewatching some of the scenes, I'm like the Flash Gordon stuff in Ted 1's really funny and really cool.
Yeah.
Ted 2, not interesting at all.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because when Ted 2 came out, there was a bunch of movies that were kind of centered around Comic-Con and conventions that came out. And I was like, oh, that's interesting because like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I don't think that came out at the same time, but that takes place at a Comic-Con, like a big portion of it, and not Jay and Silent Bob, whatever the last one they did was.
Yeah, the reboot thing.
The reboot, yeah, reboot.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and then I remember there being a documentary. It just felt like, oh, Comic-Con's the new like place that we're gonna have feature in our movie to make it cool or interesting, and everyone did it, and it made it not cool or interesting because
I did think, is it Ted? Well, I think both of them have Patrick Warburton in them.
Yes.
I can't remember which one of them has him dressed up as the Tick. I guess it's
Ted
part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has him dressed up, which I think is funny.
He's awesome because he's the voice of the Tick.
Right, yeah. So I thought that was pretty funny. And it's got the guy that plays is it Worf?
Yeah, Michael Dorn.
Yeah. I like seeing those guys. But yeah, Ted 2 I could do without.
For sure.
I agree with you. I think I'm fairly warm on Ted. It's fine, but Ted 2 is more of the same. So that's what I've been watching, all Flash Gordon centric kind of stuff. What about you?
So last time I was talking to you guys, we were going down, Kirby and I were going down a Stephen King kick. So, and I asked you last time, what would you do? I don't know if I asked you on camera. I think I did. What would you do if you watched something that had 2 seasons, that's an anthology, you were lukewarm on the first season, and was it worth digging into the second season if you're maybe not into it?
I don't like to leave things unfinished, so I would probably just gut it out and watch it.
That being said, I finished Castle Rock season 2.
All right, you're like,
it's a little bit of the same, right? It's a mixed bag. There's some things I like about it. There's some things I don't like about it. It's interesting, especially with the Misery character. I think she's a lot to watch for, 10 episodes. Like, she's not the front and center the whole time, but
Lizzie Kaplan character.
Yeah, Lizzie Kaplan. Sorry, not Misery. Annie
Wilkes.
Annie Wilkes, yeah, who Kathy Bates played.
Annie Wilkes Booth.
Having that kind of mannerism, that kind of personality is a lot for 10 hours.
Yeah. I could see that.
I think the show kind of grapples it well. It's the stuff behind it's interesting. I think overall I'm favorable towards the series, and I wish it kind of continued, because now that I've been watching more Stephen King things, it's interesting seeing them. Like, it's a mashup of all the hits and all the things. Like, we're going to be taking place at Castle Rock. We're going to be including the shot from Needful Things, and we're going to have, a shot of the car from Christine and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's seeing that kind of mashup. It's kind of fun. Is where the joy is. The writing, it's okay.
So season 2 is all basically Annie Wilkes.
It is. So basically season 2 is, it starts out, Annie Wilkes is basically moving from place to place. She's like a nurse that lost her license, and I think it's the same reason why she lost her license in Misery, like killed someone. No, actually, no, sorry. This movie, she's running for a reason that gets talked about later, but she's on the run. She's passing through Castle Rock, gets in an accident, and so her and her daughter in the show are stuck in Castle Rock.
Does this take place before or after Misery?
This is before Misery.
It's like her origin story, or something
kind
like
of,
that.
yeah.
So that reminds me, I did start a show that I did not finish and did not want to finish. I'm thinking the same thing. It was called Ratched, Nurse Ratched.
Yes,
Ratched
I remember.
I watched like one episode of that. I couldn't take it because it was such a departure from the Louise Fletcher character in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Mm-hmm. It just was awful. I thought I just had no interest in finishing it. So.
Wasn't it the same guy who did Glee and all that?
Ryan
Murphy. Yeah.
It sucked. What I saw of it sucked. I only saw one episode, and that was enough for me to never want to watch any more episodes. I couldn't take it. So hopefully this wasn't like that. Well, obviously you finished it.
There's, so one of the main antagonists in the show is Ace Merrill, and he's the same character that Kiefer Sutherland plays in Stand By Me.
Interesting.
So, and I don't think there's like a straight line from Stand By Me to Castle Rock, but but it's a recontextualization, it's a reimagining of that character.
Yeah,
and stuff like that, and so that makes it interesting to me.
I was saying, and King does that in his books. His books are kind of vaguely kind of take place all in
Yeah.
the same kind of universe, or you'll hear them mention maybe something that happened in another book of his or something
Yeah.
like that. So yeah,
And then, like,
that's-
in the
that's
first
interesting.
season, you have Alan Pangborn, who's basically the main character of Needful Things.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
he's played by from The Rock. I can't think of his name right now.
Is it Ed Harris.
Ed Harris, yeah. So it's like, so you have these
Evil things with Max von Sydow.
with Max
who
von
was in Flash
Sydow,
Gordon. Yeah.
So you have these different things that kind of work together. That being said, I did actually watch Needful Things,
Yeah.
and that was not as fun or as interesting as I wanted it to be, but it was good. I like the tale. I like those kind of tales that are like you're getting into things more than you bargained for and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and how that kind of works out. Like, I like that structure of a story and
The
stuff.
monkey's paw.
The monkey's paw kind of thing.
Yeah. Classic example.
So watch that. The other two things I'm going to add is we watched Christine, which was directed by John Carpenter. I did not
Yes.
know that.
Yes.
Christine was actually kind of fun. It's bizarre. Never seen it. Knew that it was a story about a car that killed people, but didn't know if it was going to take like the rubber route or how that worked and all that kind of stuff. But I think Christine holds up. It's bizarre and all that kind of stuff. Have you seen Christine?
I have. It's been a long time, but I remember, people always used to complain that there were no good Stephen King adaptations for a long time. But I don't know where that criticism originated from, because in my mind, thinking back, I think the Brian De Palma Carrie's pretty beloved, although I don't think it's that great. I think it's pretty beloved. I think Salem's Lot, the miniseries, is not the shortened movie that they made out of it, but the actual lengthy miniseries. I think Salem's Lot's pretty good. The Shining, again, we know where we fall on it, but people love The Shining. The Dead Zone, I don't think that came out around the same time as Christine. I think The Dead Zone's pretty good. So it seems like there was more good Stephen King adaptations than bad. Maybe it changed, like with Firestarter and some of this other crap. But I remember Christine being pretty decent from my recollection, and and I think John Carpenter probably adds a lot to it, right? So
of course.
Yeah, if it was some other director, it might have, in less capable hands, it might have sucked or something. But I remember it being good, and actually that kind of makes me want to rewatch it.
The car reforming is awesome.
It is cool. I remember that. Yeah.
And they did it practically. There wasn't computer graphic back then, and
very
it's
cool.
Very cool. It is worth the price of admission itself.
And what's the is it Arnie is the villain, played by Keith Gordon? I don't remember his character's name.
Yeah, that sounds right.
He's the guy that went on to be a director, and he did A Midnight Clear, which we did back in not last December, I think maybe the December before. So now a big shot director.
Yeah,
but he plays. I think it's Arnie, something like that. He's the kid that owns the car.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah.
The last thing I watched was the new #1 Netflix movie that came out, and it's The Atom Project with Ryan Reynolds and other people.
I've seen a poster.
Zoe Saldana. It has Bruce Banner himself, Mark Ruffalo.
Ruffalo.
As the Atom Project is okay.
It's got your name in it, so
I gotta
be
like
good,
it.
Right?
Yeah, it's okay. I think, and I heard this criticism, so I'm gonna borrow it. It borrows a lot from other things, and that makes it vapid in and of itself. Like, it's like, oh, we're gonna take all these interesting things from pop culture, from movies you other seen, and you've seen before, and use it as a shortcut to kind of build the universe of the movie and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's just kind of vapid in that exercise. Like, I've seen some people really like it, and they have an emotional connection to it. I didn't get it. It was, for me, it was just kind of interesting to watch and see all this thing. But for me, it just was like nothing underneath the surface kind of thing. It was all very like straightforward and vapid. Like, I was watching it, I'm like, oh, someone's really enjoyed. To me, it felt like Ryan Reynolds wanted to do Guardians of the Galaxy with the director Sean Levy wanted. I think it's Sean Levy. Forgive me if I get it wrong. It's like they both wanted to do a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of movie and kind of use that as like a jumping off point for all this other stuff. But it's not. I enjoyed watching it. Like I said, it's just, but you have to know what it is, which is not a lot substantive to it and stuff like that.
Are Ryan Reynolds and Netflix like best bros now? I feel like he's doing tons of Netflix. He's like Nomi Rapace.
Yeah.
I feel like every movie she does now is a Netflix movie. Ryan Reynolds he did the one with The Rock, right?
He did
Not too long ago.
Red
He did
Notice,
Six Underground.
Six Underground. He
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
He's Netflix's go-to guy, and Nomi, I don't know how you say her first name, Rapace is their go-to girl.
Probably. Yeah. They're going to be in a movie together probably at some point.
They probably will. We got to intersect these.
Yeah. So that's what it is. Again, didn't not like it. Didn't think it was outstanding. Just thought it was good. It's just candy. It's cotton candy is what it is.
I have very little interest in most Netflix movies.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I feel like most of the Netflix movies, I know I've said this before, most of the Netflix movies I feel like I watch just aren't that good. And they're also too long most of the time, and their TV series are too long. So.
I mean, I think there are a couple things Netflix does where they're trying to win over the critic crowd and the Academy Award crowd with like Roma and The Irishman. But honestly, it feels like Netflix is playing to like not even the lowest common denominator, but what they think is the lowest common denominator, which is lower than the lowest common denominator. It's like they're playing to like a bunch of like child like I don't know, I can't think of a good way to describe it, but other than it's like this is where we think people are, or this is where we think people are, and this is where people really are, but we're gonna play to like this crowd, like the really it's just like, and it's I think that what I just said earlier is that the best description. All their movies are cotton candy. Like you get that instant sweet taste, and then it's gone, vanished without a trace.
Yeah,
and it's like you had nothing, and that's what it is.
It's like fruit stripe gum.
Yeah.
You get the flavor for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. It's nothing, and I mean, they're crunching the numbers. They know what works for them, but honestly, like I don't think they're. It's nothing worth.
They have enough money now, and they have enough subscribers that they cast a wide net, and because they've got tons and tons and tons of crap, but then they have Squid Game or to the Tiger King, which everybody really really enjoys and everybody gravitates to. So then they just milk that for all it's worth, and so it's like I think they can afford to just blow money on everything. There's some show or something that I saw where they made fun of Netflix, like they had a thing where anybody can get a Netflix show or anybody can get a Netflix property or whatever. I don't remember what show it was or if it's a sketch comedy or something like that, but I thought it was funny and true, which is the best kind of humor.
I mean, there's some stuff. I mean, we can go on about this, but there's some things that become universal because they're so specific. But then there's the other things that they're trying to be so wide that it's nothing, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of collapses under that. And I feel like all the Netflix stuff kind of falls under that. And to me, it feels like a very, I was trying to think of the word when I was talking about it, but it's like a very poor way to look at society, I think, to try to build something that is for everyone and not has no substance of itself. It just feels very like negative to me, and like you have this poor outlook on everyone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that's too much, but that's kind of where the Adam Project led me down, that kind of stuff. So anyways, that's what we've been watching. What are we pairing with Flash Gordon? Hopefully it's not on Netflix.
Yeah, so Sam Jones, not Sam Neill, Sam Jones played Flash Gordon, who is a comic strip character brought to the screen. You may not know it, or you might know it if you're a big fan of this comic character. But Sam Jones played another comic character in a probably little seen, at least when it aired, TV movie from 1987. He played the Spirit. No, not the 2008 movie with Gabrielle Mocked and Samuel L. Jackson. This is a different Spirit. Same comic character, but we're going to talk about the Spirit. Sam Jones as the Spirit next time.
All right, stay tuned for that. All right, guys, that was everything you wanted about Flash Gordon and more. Let us know what you think about Flash Gordon. Are you high on it?
Probably.
Is it the best thing in the world? Let us know. Leave a comment down below. Like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff with the show. And stay tuned Wednesday when we find out if Sam Jones has the Spirit or not. Well, I guess he becomes
Spirit. Yes, he does. He's got Spirit.
Here you go.
I like Hot Fuzz, the movie. I don't know.
There you go.
Okay, sorry.
Stay tuned for more of that next time, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.